Her sister stole her man and then the Mafia stole her life. Emma thought the worst betrayal was getting dumped by Ryan and being forced to watch him marry her own sister. Wrong. One random bus ride later, she witnesses a mob pickup, gets hunted as a loose end, and ends up hidden inside a penthouse owned by a dangerously calm underworld king. But the real bomb, the ex who broke her heart, was never innocent. He was part of the whole criminal game from the very beginning.
On Emma Carter's kitchen counter, the wedding invitation was a ticking bomb. In gold leaf, her sister's name. The groom, Ryan Blake, was the man Emma had adored for 3 years, the man who swore his forever to her before he simply vanished. And now he would marry Victoria, the sister who possessed everything Emma never could. As rain lashed the window of her small New York flat, something fractured deep inside her soul. She could not yet know that in 7 days, she would stand in a completely different reality, one where the sting of betrayal would seem like a gentle mercy. Wherever you are listening tonight, let us know this story has found you in your city. Let's hear how far Emma's echo travels. Our story begins now. The hospital air smelled of harsh chemicals and a deeper sickness underneath. A scent that clung to you, that followed you home no matter how many times you washed your hands. Emma Carter stood at the 4th floor nurse's station, her spine an arc of pain, her feet protesting inside shoes worn through 2 months ago. She couldn't afford to replace them. "Emma, fresh linens in 412, Nurse Sandra Chen said, her eyes fixed on her charts. "On it." Emma's body moved on instinct, a machine on autopilot while her mind floated free. It did that often now, disengaging, drifting away from a prison her body could not escape. The invitation had haunted her for 3 days. 3 days, and she still could not bring herself to throw it out. She guided the linen cart down the hall, its wheels whining with each turn. The noise frayed her nerves, but everything did these days. The fluorescent lights hummed and flickered above. A patient's call button pulsed from down the corridor. Soft crying seeped from behind a closed door. Emma replaced the linens, monitored 2 post-op patients, refilled 3 water pitchers, and helped an elderly man to the washroom. Her shift ended at 11 p.m. after 12 hours on her feet. Her supervisor, Margaret, had asked if she could possibly cover a piece of tomorrow's day shift. "We're so short-handed," Margaret said, her face apologetic, her voice expecting a yes. "Just 4 hours?" Emma's mind scrolled through her debts. Rent due in 6 days, the power bill already late. "Yeah," she heard her voice say, "I can do that." "You're a lifesaver." Emma wasn't so certain. Most days she was barely keeping her own head above water. She descended into the nearly deserted subway station. A few solitary figures waited. A businessman on his phone, 2 women in scrubs like hers, a teen with massive headphones. No one made eye contact. It was the sacred rule of late-night travel in New York. Everyone was invisible, the way they all preferred it. Emma had perfected the art of being unseen. It came easily after a lifetime of practice. The train shrieked to a halt, exhaling a blast of stale air. She collapsed into a rear seat against the hard plastic and shut her eyes. 20 minutes until her stop. 20 minutes of blessed nothingness. But the invitation was in her bag, a palpable weight that defied reason. Her phone vibrated, a message from her mother. "Victoria needs to know if you've replied. The caterer is asking for a final count." Emma stared at the words for a long beat before locking her phone, leaving the text unanswered. Emma's apartment building was a structure seemingly held together by faith and fresh paint. The main door always jammed. The 3rd-floor hallway lights were eternally dark, and the elevator had been out of service for 2 months. Emma climbed the 5 flights, her legs trembling with fatigue. Inside apartment 5C, she let her bag fall by the door, not bothering with the lights. The glow from the street below was enough to see by. She drifted through the familiar gloom to the kitchen, just a nook in the main room, and poured a glass of tap water. The invitation was right where she left it, leaned against the salt shaker. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Carter request the honor of your presence at the nuptials of their daughter, Victoria Ann Carter, to Mr. Ryan Christopher Blake. Emma's hand trembled as she put the glass down. Ryan Blake, 3 years. She had invested 3 years of her life in him. Long nights talking until dawn, weekends discovering the city, quiet mornings in his apartment, the beautiful one in Tribeca his family's fortune provided. There, she always felt she was an imposter in someone else's life. "I love you," he'd said, cupping her face as if she were made of glass. "I don't care what my father thinks. You are what I want." 2 weeks later, her calls went unanswered. 4 months after that, Victoria arrived home for Christmas with a new beau, tall, handsome, from a privileged family. It all happened so fast, she'd said. So unexpected. She was ecstatic. Emma recognized him instantly. Ryan looked at her just once during that dinner, his expression a perfect blank, and she knew he had made his decision. She was not the one. She had never been the one. She should have screamed, shattered a plate, exposed his betrayal before their parents and the expensive wine and Victoria's radiant smile. Instead, she excused herself, retreated to the bathroom, and wept as silently as she possibly could, because that was Emma's way. She made herself smaller. She consumed her own pain. She vanished. "Damn it," she whispered into the hollow apartment. The word was a sharp, solid thing. She said it again with more force. Damn it. No one heard. No one was there to care. Emma seized the invitation, meaning to rip it to shreds, but her hands refused to obey. She sank onto the old couch, a street rescue from 3 years past, and gazed at the gilded letters until they blurred. Her phone rang. She almost ignored it, but her sister's name lit the screen. "Hello, Emma. Finally, I've been calling you all day." Victoria's voice was luminous, effortless. Everything about her sister was. "Did you see my text about the reply?" "Yeah." Emma's throat closed up. "I have to work that weekend." "What?" "No, Emma, it's my wedding. You have to come. You are my maid of honor." "I never said I would be." "Well, of course you are. You're my sister. Who else would I ask?" Victoria's laugh was a little bell, a sound that always made Emma feel like she was outside of the joke. "Besides, Mom has already ordered your dress. It's stunning, champagne-colored, so chic. Victoria, I get you're busy, but this matters. It is one day. Surely they can get by without you for one day." Emma yearned to say no, to tell Victoria the entire ugly truth, to hear that perfect voice finally break, to watch her flawless composure crack. "I will see what I can manage," she said instead. "Perfect. I knew you'd come through. Oh, and we have the final fitting on Tuesday. Can you be there? 6 o'clock at the boutique in Soho." "I work until 7. "Then leave early, Emma, please. This is my wedding." Victoria's voice gained an edge, the sharpness beneath the sugar that appeared when she was denied. "I need you there." "No," Emma thought. "You need a prop to stand beside you to make you look even better. That's all I've ever been." "I'll try," she said. "Great. Love you, sis." The call ended before Emma could reply. She remained in the dark, phone against her ear, and imagined what it might feel like to set her whole life on fire. The following morning came too soon, and with no compassion. Emma's alarm shrieked at 5 a.m. She forced herself into the shower, letting the scalding spray punish her skin until the small water heater was spent. She pulled on the same scrubs from yesterday, which she had washed, and choked down a protein bar that tasted of chalk. The day shift-led Patricia offered a kind smile. "You look drained." "I'm fine. Margaret mentioned you're covering until 3. "That is the plan." Patricia paused, then dropped her voice. "You know it's okay to say no, right? You already work more than anyone else." Emma manufactured a smile. "It's fine, honestly." It was not fine. Not a single thing was fine. But Emma knew long ago that saying it was fine was far simpler than explaining the truth. The morning melted into afternoon. A stream of patients flowed through. Emma changed bedding, updated records, dispensed medicine under supervision, and held the hands of the frightened and the lonely. She was good at this, good at being unseen, at serving needs, at being useful. By 2 p.m., she felt as if she were moving through deep water. Everything was in slow motion. Her thoughts, her body, the clock on the wall that seemed to taunt her. "Emma, are you all right?" Sandra Chen was watching her, concerned. "You were just completely spaced out for 30 seconds. "Sorry, yeah, I'm okay." "When did you last have a meal?" Emma struggled to recall. Breakfast? That had been 11 hours ago. "Go take 15. Get some food." The hospital cafeteria was a bleak, fluorescent space in the basement, but the coffee was strong and the sandwiches were inexpensive. Emma bought both and found a corner table, far from the cliques of doctors and nurses. She was halfway through her meal when her phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. The message arrived like a summons from another life. Chelsea, Victoria's college friend. A bachelorette party. Availability. Emma's gaze drifted from the glowing screen to the forgotten sandwich, to the scarred landscape of Formica table. Something inside her fractured. A delicate internal fissure spreading outward with every quiet breath she took. Her fingers moved, typing a refusal she hoped was final. "I don't think I can make it." The reply was instant, a cheerful insistence that felt like a blow. "Oh no, it won't be the same without you. Let me call you." She silenced the phone, plunging it into the darkness of her pocket. The rest of her shift was a phantom's work. By 3 p.m., she was a ghost clocking out, her body burdened by a weariness that settled deeper than her bones. The subway platform pulsed with the afternoon commute. Emma allowed 2 teeming trains to pass, unable to face the crush, before forcing herself into the third. She stood pinned to the door, a stranger's briefcase, a dull ache in her hip, and mentally ticked off each stop. When she surfaced, it was into a world of muted gray and a relentless, steady rain. It would be raining, of course. Her umbrella, left at work 2 weeks ago, had long since been claimed by another. By the time she saw her building, she was drenched, water cascading from her hair, her uniform clinging like a second skin. Her shoes sighed with water at every step. The climb to the 5th floor felt like an impossible ascent. Inside, Emma shed her sodden clothes, shivering in the bathroom while a stranger stared back from the spotted mirror. This ghost had pale skin, bruised circles beneath her eyes, and hair crying out for a trim, a form too gaunt in some places, too soft in others. She wondered, when did the disappearing act begin? The shower was cold, the water heater still spent, and she dressed in sweatpants and a faded university shirt that had once been Ryan's. A part of her knew she should have set fire to every memory of him. Instead, she wore his ghost to bed. Dinner was instant ramen, eaten from the pot as she stood over the kitchen counter alone. Through her window, she watched another life unfold. A family gathered for dinner. A mother, a father, 2 children. Laughter she couldn't hear. A gentle hand wiping sauce from a small face. Emma turned from the scene. The evening yawned before her, a vast and empty expanse. Television was a flicker of meaningless light. The words in her book refused to cohere. In the end, she simply lay on the sofa, tracing patterns on the ceiling, listening to the building's tired symphony. The thud of footsteps above, the muffled anger of an argument in Spanish, the low thump of a bass line that vibrated through the floorboards. At 10 p.m., sleep a distant country she could not reach, she decided on a pilgrimage to the 24-hour bodega, 3 blocks away. She needed essentials, milk, bread, a reason to move through the world. Perhaps the walk would exhaust her enough for sleep. The streets were strangely subdued for a Friday, the rain having chased the city indoors. Emma moved quickly, hands buried in her pockets, hood drawn against the persistent drizzle. The bodega was a bright, warm island in the night. She gathered her things, paid the clerk whose eyes were heavy with fatigue, and stepped back into the wet dark. It was then she saw it. A bus waiting across the street. She rarely used the bus, the subway always faster, but something about its illuminated interior, a glowing sanctuary with its doors still open, sent her sprinting across the asphalt to climb aboard. The driver, a woman in her middle years with kind eyes and braided hair, gave her a small nod. "Just made it." "Thanks," Emma breathed, her Metro card swiping with a beep. The bus was a near-empty vessel. An old man slept near the front. A young couple murmured to each other in the middle. Emma retreated to the very back, sinking into a seat by the window. The bus sighed away from the curb, a lurch and a hiss of brakes. She pressed her forehead to the cool glass, watching the city bleed past. Lights, buildings, glimpses of lives behind lit windows. Her mind was a placid sea of nothing and everything, right until the moment the bus broke its rhythm, stopping where there was no stop. 2 men boarded, and a cold dread bloomed in Emma's chest because everything about them was wrong. Their clothes were wrong, too sharp for this route, for this hour. Their posture was wrong, too rigid, too aware. Their eyes were wrong. They were predators, scanning, assessing. The driver knew it too. "This ain't a regular stop." "Keep driving," the first man said. His voice was a calm surface over a current of pure steel. As the second man moved down the aisle, Emma saw the dark shape of a gun at his waist, and the air vanished from her lungs. "Everyone stay calm," the first one announced. "We're just looking for someone." The old man was awake now, his hands in the air. The young couple clung to one another. The driver's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Emma's heart hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she tried to will herself into non-existence. The second man patrolled the aisle, his gaze lingering on each passenger. At the young couple, he seized the man by his collar, yanking him upward. "Hey, what are—" "Shut up! Phone!" The young man's trembling hands produced the device. The gunman glanced at the screen, grunted in dismissal, and shoved him back down. "Not him." He continued his slow, menacing walk toward Emma. Her mind went blank, her body frozen. Her hands shook so violently she gripped the seat's edge to still them. He stopped before her, and his eyes, cold and empty, held her for a lifetime. Then he moved past. The breath she hadn't known she was holding escaped her in a silent, ragged rush. "Turn around," the man at the front commanded the driver. "We're getting off." The bus obeyed, lurching onto a street she had never seen before. Industrial, desolate. The doors hissed open. "Move," the second gunman ordered someone in the back. Emma risked a backward glance and saw him pulling a man to his feet, someone in his 30s, dressed in a suit that bled money. The man spoke in a low, furious tone she couldn't decipher. He was hustled down the steps and into the night. The doors closed. The bus moved on. For a long moment, the silence was absolute. Then a soft, weeping sound began to rise from the old man near the front. The driver pulled over at the next official stop. "Everyone off," she said, her voice strained. "I'm calling the police." Emma stumbled from the bus, her legs feeling like foreign objects. The other passengers melted into the night, desperate to escape the orbit of official reports and endless questions. She knew she should have stayed. Instead, she walked. She was adrift in an unfamiliar part of the city, the street signs meaningless. Her phone reported a 40-minute journey home on foot. And so, she walked. The rain intensified, streaming down her face, matting her hair to her scalp. The thin grocery bag bit into her palm. She forced herself to move faster. She was only 2 blocks from her building when she finally recognized her surroundings, her legs shaking from the adrenaline crash. Just 2 more blocks to a locked door, a hot shower, to an attempt to forget the look in the captive man's eyes. She was so intent on the simple mechanics of walking that she didn't see the car until it glided to a stop beside her. The window descended. "You look like you could use a ride." Emma's head shot up. The driver was a man around 40, his dark hair streaked with silver at the temples, his eyes unnervingly perceptive. He wore a suit that likely cost more than her rent for a year. And the way he looked at her was so intense, so focused, she felt like the only person left in the world. "I'm fine," she heard herself say, the words automatic. "You're soaked. It's 1 a.m, and you're in a part of town you clearly do not know." His voice was a smooth, cultured sound, shaded with an accent she couldn't quite identify. "Let me give you a ride." "No, thank you." "I insist." A note in his tone made it clear it was not a request. Her heart began to pound its frantic rhythm once more. "I said no." The man regarded her for another long moment before giving a slow, deliberate nod. "All right, but take this." He offered a business card through the open window. "In case you change your mind." She ignored it, turning and walking away, her pace quickening. She heard the quiet hum of the car as it finally pulled away. She did not slow until the heavy front door of her building was locked behind her. Even on the stairs, she glanced over her shoulder, a primal fear still clinging to her. Inside apartment 5C, she turned the deadbolt, slid the chain, and for good measure, wedged a chair beneath the doorknob. Only then did she let herself collapse onto the couch, still dripping, her body racked with tremors. Her phone buzzed. Victoria. She rejected the call. It buzzed again, instantly. Her mother. She rejected that one, too. A text appeared. "Emma Christine Carter, answer your phone right now. We need to discuss your behavior." Emma switched the device off entirely and let it drop to the rug. On the counter, the wedding invitation waited, a pristine and impossible artifact from a world that no longer felt real. With eyes sealed shut, Emma searched for the simple rhythm of her own breath. Beyond her window, the rain fell without pause, and the city's heart beat on. Out there, lives were unfolding. romance blooming, futures being forged, existence being acknowledged. But Emma Carter, a ghost in her own life, sat shrouded in darkness, questioning if she had ever truly been there at all. Consciousness returned on the sofa, her clothes still clinging damply to her skin. A crippling kink in her neck sent fire down her spine. Pale morning light bled through the blinds. For one fleeting moment, the reason for the profound ache in her bones, for the void in her chest, was lost to her, and then the memory flooded back. The bus, the flash of steel, the man in the stately car. She rose with a pained slowness, her stiff fingers struggling to peel away the sodden jacket. Her phone lay on the floor, precisely where it had fallen. Powering it on revealed a screen ablaze with 17 missed calls and 23 messages. Emma purged them all, unread. The shower ran cold as it always did. A call to the building super about the water heater was long overdue, yet the icy spray at least scoured away the phantom grime of the storm-drenched streets. She pulled on fresh scrubs for her shift, wove her wet hair into a tight braid, and met her own gaze in the mirror. A stranger stared back, wan, hollowed out, nearly erased. "Get a grip," she whispered to the apparition. She arrived to find the hospital in a state of controlled chaos. A pile-up on the expressway had overwhelmed the emergency room, pulling staff from every department into the fray. Emma passed the first 4 hours of her shift in a blur, fetching supplies, applying pressure to bleeding wounds, and staying clear of professionals who moved with purpose. Around noon, the frantic pace finally eased, allowing her a moment to escape. She was outside by the employee entrance, inhaling air that tasted of exhaust and fighting the tremor in her hands when Sandra appeared. "I was calling you." Emma retrieved her phone, remembering she'd muted it after the bus and forgotten to restore the sound. "Sorry, what is it?" Sandra wore a strange look, a blend of worry and another emotion Emma couldn't quite place. "There's someone at the front desk asking for you." "Who?" He wouldn't say, just that it was urgent. A knot of ice formed in Emma's gut. "I'm not expecting anyone who—" "He's in a vehicle that costs more than my salary for 2 years," Sandra cut in. "And he has that aura, you know? Like he's contemplating whether or not to buy the entire hospital." The main lobby teemed with a restless mix of visitors and patients. Emma's eyes swept the crowd and landed on him instantly. It was the man from the previous night, leaning against the information counter as if he owned it, as if he could own any space he chose to occupy. His attention was fixed on the elevators, and the second she stepped out, his eyes locked onto hers. Her first impulse was to retreat. Her second, to summon security. She did neither. Instead, she moved toward him, the frantic beat of her heart a drum in her ears, halting just beyond his reach. "How did you find me?" A smile touched his lips but failed to warm his eyes. "It's remarkable how easily people can be located if you know the right places to search." "That's not an answer." "No," he conceded, "it is not." This close, his features were even more arresting. High cheekbones, a jawline seemingly cut from stone, and eyes the color of a stormy sea. A delicate scar sliced through his left eyebrow, a flaw that only amplified his sharp beauty. "What is it you want?" Emma demanded. "To confirm you arrived home unharmed." "I'm fine, you can go." "Could we speak somewhere more private?" "No." His smile deepened just a fraction. "You're wary. That's wise." "I'm leaving," Emma stated, turning away. His hand closed around her wrist. The grip wasn't harsh or menacing, but it was absolute, Halted her instantly. 5 minutes, it's all I need. Emma's gaze dropped to his fingers encircling her arm. His hands were large, the knuckles mapped with scars that spoke of violent impacts with walls, or perhaps faces. Let go of me. He complied at once, lifting his hands in a gesture of peace. I am not here to cause you harm. Then why are you here? Because I believe you witnessed something on that bus last night. His voice lowered, an intimate murmur meant only for her. And I believe you're intelligent enough to be afraid. Emma's mouth felt like sand. I have no idea what you're referring to. Yes, you do. He reached inside his coat. Emma recoiled as he produced a simple business card. My name is Adrian Castellano. If anyone questions you about yesterday, if you are approached by anyone, if anything at all feels out of place, you are to call me at once. She gazed at the card. The paper was heavy, the letters embossed, displaying only a name and a telephone number. Why would I call you? Because the other occupants of that bus are not the sort of people whose attention you want to attract. Adrian's face was now a mask of pure gravity, all hint of his earlier smirk gone. And you, Emma, have been noticed. I saw nothing. I know nothing. I sincerely hope that's the case. He pressed the card into her palm, his warmth a stark contrast to her own icy skin. But should that not be true? Take this, please. Emma fought the urge to fling the card back at him, to scream for explanations, to rail against the fact that her world was already crumbling and didn't need a cryptic stranger to hasten its collapse. Instead, she thrust the card into her pocket and departed without looking back. She could feel his stare on her, a physical weight until the elevator doors slid shut. The remainder of her shift was a disorienting fog of mundane duties and frantic, circling thoughts. Who was Adrian Castellano? How did he locate her? What did being noticed truly mean? When she finally clocked out at 7, her nerves were stretched to their limit. The subway ride home was an exercise in paranoia, every passenger a potential threat, every sudden noise a jolt to her system. Once the door to her apartment was bolted, she slumped against it, resting her forehead against the cool surface of the wood. The business card was a hard rectangle in her pocket. She pulled it out, studied it for a long, quiet minute, then buried it in a drawer as if to bury the memory itself. Her phone began to ring. It was her mother again. This time, Emma accepted the call. Hello, Mom. Emma, thank goodness. Do you realize how frantic I've been? Victoria says you're ignoring all messages about the dress fitting, and Chelsea claims you're skipping the bachelorette party. Mom, I have a job. I can't simply abandon everything. This is for your sister's wedding, Emma. Your only sister. She is counting on you. Emma choked back a caustic laugh that clawed at her throat. Is she really? What is that supposed to imply? Nothing. I'm just exhausted. Can we discuss this some other time? No, we cannot. The wedding is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, Emma, you must pull yourself together. At that, something inside her finally fractured. Perhaps it was the bone-deep fatigue. Perhaps it was the terror still twisting in her stomach from the bus, from Adrian Castellano's chilling words. Or perhaps it was 3 years of swallowing her own private agony. Do you want to know why I haven't RSVP'd? Why I'm not thrilled to be Victoria's maid of honor? Ryan was my boyfriend for 3 years, and then one day he just vanished. No more calls, no more texts. He simply ceased to exist. And 4 months after that, he appeared at Christmas dinner on Victoria's arm. A cavernous silence echoed over the line. "You knew," Emma whispered. "This entire time you knew, didn't you?" Her mother's voice, when it finally came, was strained. "Ryan made his decision, Emma. He chose a person with whom he could have a real future. Someone from his world, someone who isn't me. Victoria is accomplished. She is beautiful. She is all the things I am not." "Yes, Mom, I understand. I always have." "That is not what I was saying." "Yes, it is." Emma's voice broke. "It is always what you have been saying. I am the daughter who couldn't get into a decent college. The one earning minimum wage, cleaning up other people's messes. The family shame." "Emma, that's overly dramatic. I have to go." "Do not you dare hang up on—" Emma severed the connection and powered her phone off. She then strode to the kitchen, snatched the wedding invitation from the counter, and began to tear it apart. She shredded it into tiny scraps. Like confetti, the act felt good. Not whole, but good. She was sweeping the remnants into the dustpan when a sharp knock sounded at her door. Emma went rigid. No one ever knocked on her door. She had no friends who visited unannounced. Her neighbors were strangers. All deliveries were left downstairs. A second knock, more insistent. She crept to the door and peered through the peephole. A man was in the hall. It was not Adrian Castellano. This man was younger, with a severe buzz cut and a physique honed by countless hours in a weight room. "Emma Carter," his voice came through the door. She remained silent. "I have a couple of questions for you about what happened last night. On the bus." A chill spread through her veins. "It won't take long, no reason to be concerned." But every fiber of her being screamed that this was wrong. A police officer would have identified himself. A fellow witness would never have hunted down her private address. Adrian's warning replayed in her mind. "If anything feels wrong, you call me." Emma retreated from the door, her breath held tight in her chest. The man knocked again, with more force. She then heard him murmur to someone else. There were two of them. Footsteps receded down the hall. She counted the seconds, waiting for 5 minutes, then 10. Finally, with trembling hands, she retrieved Adrian's card from the drawer and dialed. He picked up before the first ring finished. "Emma." "How did you know it was me?" "I was waiting for your call. Tell me what's happening." She recounted everything. The man at her door, his questions, the primal instinct that had shrieked danger. The words tumbled out of her, a frantic, jumbled mess, but Adrian heard her out in complete silence. When she fell quiet, there was a short, sharp pause. "Lock your door, open it for no one. I am dispatching someone to you right now." "Someone? What?" Emma listened very carefully. "Those men who seized that man from the bus serve a powerful entity, one who detests loose threads. And you are a loose thread." Her knees went weak. She collapsed onto the couch. "I witnessed nothing. I am aware of nothing." "I know," he said, "but they don't, and their hunt will be relentless until they are sure." His voice lost its hard edge. "I can shield you, but you have to place your trust in me. Can you do that?" Emma saw her vacant home, her pointless career, her family who treated her like a burden. She saw a life of invisibility, of non-existence, of being erased. "Why does it matter to you?" she asked. Adrienne was silent for a beat. "I don't have that answer yet." "But it does." The sincerity in his tone startled her. It was a raw honesty, as if he was as surprised by his own words as she was. "Okay," she breathed. "A black SUV is arriving at your building this instant. The man behind the wheel is Marcus. He is taking you to safety. Where to? To my protection. Emma drifted to the window, peering at the street below. As promised, a dark SUV with blacked-out windows sat idling by the curb. As she looked on, a man emerged, broad in the shoulders, dark-skinned, in a suit that strained to contain his physique. I see him. Good. Get a bag. Only what's vital. You will not be returning here for some time. The gravity of her situation finally landed. Adrienne, I have a career. I will take care of it. Trust me. Emma felt the urge to resist, to call this madness, to refuse to flee her own life on the word of a man she met once in a storm. But she pictured the man at her door, felt the gun's presence from the bus, and saw this warning in Adrienne's gaze. Give me 5 minutes, she stated. She packed a duffel without conscious thought, grabbing jeans, shirts, undergarments, the one fine dress she never wore, her toothbrush, a phone charger, and the framed photograph of her and her grandmother from the nightstand. As an afterthought, she snatched Ryan's old t-shirt and shoved it inside as well. She couldn't say why. Marcus was waiting for her in the lobby. In person, he was more imposing, 6'4" at a glance, with the scar tracing his neck and eyes that missed no detail. M. Carter, he said, his voice unexpectedly soft. I'm Marcus Webb. Mr. Castellano dispatched me to guarantee your well-being. Yes, he mentioned that. Emma adjusted the bag on her shoulder. So where are we headed? To a secure location, if you would follow me. The SUV was polished and quiet, its leather interior warmed by the heater. Marcus merged into the flow of cars, his gaze constantly sweeping the mirrors. Have you been with Adrienne for long? Emma asked, more to break the tense quiet than out of genuine curiosity. 8 years. What is it he does precisely? Adrienne, I mean. Marcus met her eyes in the rear view. He resolves issues. That's not a response. It's the only one I'm permitted to give, ma'am. They traveled for 20 minutes, leaving her familiar neighborhood for the heart of Manhattan. The architecture grew taller, sleeker, more opulent. When Marcus finally navigated into a subterranean garage beneath a tower of glass and steel, Emma's stomach was a knot of dread. The elevator demanded a key card. Marcus swiped his, selecting the button for the penthouse. Of course! The penthouse. The door slid open into a space torn from an architectural magazine. Windows stretched from floor to ceiling, offering a panorama of the city. Modern decor in hues of gray and white. Artwork on the walls that likely cost more than a car if Emma had owned one. Adrienne stood by the glass, a phone to his ear. He turned as they walked in, spoke a few quick low words, and cut the call. Emma, I appreciate you coming. I'm not certain I was given an option. One always has a choice. He sent Marcus away with a nod, and once the elevator doors shut, he gave Emma his complete focus. Are you okay? I'm not sure what I am. She dropped her bag, crossing her arms over her chest. Are you going to explain what in God's name is happening? Adrienne went to a bar cart and poured 2 glasses of an amber liquid. He offered one to her. Whiskey. You look like you need this. Emma accepted the glass but didn't drink. I need answers. Fair enough. Adrian sipped his own drink, choosing his words. The men from the bus served the Vulov family Russian organized crime. They were retrieving an asset who stole from them. The man in the suit was David Chen. He ran one of their money laundering schemes and got greedy. Skimmed $2 million from their profits. Adrian's face was a neutral mask. They located him 3 days ago. Last night was simply the collection. Emma's hands trembled anew. She put the glass down, afraid she'd shatter it. And they believe I saw them. They are just being thorough, ensuring no one is left who can identify them, so they'll just murder everyone who was on the bus. Her voice rose in pitch. That's deranged. That is the world we live in. Adrian's tone was now ice. This is not a place for police reports and hopes for justice. It is a place where loose ends are snipped. Emma fell into the closest chair. I think I'm going to be sick. Breathe, just breathe. She tried. In through the nose, out through the mouth, the technique they taught her at the hospital for panic attacks. It offered little comfort. Why are you doing this? She asked when she found her voice. You don't even know me. This isn't your fight. Adrienne took a seat opposite her, leaning forward. Because I am familiar with the Vulovs, I understand their methods, and I am certain that without my intervention you will be dead within 48 hours. Jesus, I'm sorry, I realize this is overwhelming. Emma let out a sharp laugh that bordered on hysterical. Overwhelming? Yes, that's a fine word for it. She buried her face in her hands. This isn't happening. This can't be real. I wish it weren't. She looked at him again. Who are you, really? Adrienne leaned back, the light sculpting the angles of his face. I am a person who operates in the same world as the Volkovs. A person with the resources to keep you alive. That isn't an answer either. I know. He held her gaze. I manage a security consulting firm, highly private, highly selective. We resolve complications for clients who cannot use conventional channels. So you're a criminal? I operate in the moral gray areas that most of society pretends aren't there. Emma should have been petrified. She should have demanded her freedom. She should have bolted for the elevator and gambled on the streets. Instead, she heard herself ask, Can you actually protect me? Yes. No doubt, no empty assurances, just a statement of fact. Emma snatched the whiskey and downed it in a single fiery swallow. Fine. What's the plan now? For now, you remain here, where you are secure. Marcus is posted within the building. I have 2 more men monitoring the entrances. The Volovs will not reach you. For how long? For as long as is necessary. I have a career, Adrian, responsibilities, a life. I have already contacted your manager, informing her of a family crisis requiring your immediate leave. Your apartment is paid for through the year's end. Your bills are handled. Emma just stared. You don't have the right, I do, and I have. He rose and walked to the window, gazing at the city lights. Your previous life led you to this danger. This new one will keep you alive. You can't make that choice for me. You are correct, I can't. He turned to look at her. So you must make it. Stay here, be safe, and allow me time to deal with the voles or walk away. Return to your apartment and pray they decide you know too much before they find you. It wasn't a choice at all. Both of them knew that. Emma got to her feet on unsteady legs. Where will I sleep? Adrienne's gaze softened almost imperceptibly. Second door on your left. The bathroom is supplied. I am just down the hall if you require anything. She lifted her bag and walked to the bedroom, pausing at the threshold. Why did you stop for me last night? On the street? You could have kept driving. Adrienne remained silent for a long moment. I'm not sure. You appeared to have endured something terrible, as if you desperately needed to be seen. He met her gaze. And I saw you. Emma felt her throat constrict. She gave a single nod and vanished into the bedroom before the tears could spill. The room was larger than her whole apartment, A king-sized bed dressed in white, a window seat with a view of the skyline, abstract paintings on the walls. Everything was pristine, expensive, and completely alien. Emma turned the lock, let her bag fall, and sank onto the bed. The mattress was sinfully comfortable, a softness that likely cost a small fortune. She took out her phone, still dark, and looked at it for a long while. Turning it on meant a flood of calls from her mother, texts from Victoria, a torrent of reminders of the life she just abandoned. She powered it on regardless. 43 missed calls, 61 text messages. Emma scanned them with a numb feeling. Her mother's growing panic, Victoria's mounting rage, a couple from colleagues checking on her, and one from Ryan. Her thumb hesitated over his name. She shouldn't look. She shouldn't let it matter. She opened it. I hear you told your mom on us. That's low, Emma. Victoria is really crushed. Can you just let us have our happiness? Emma reread it 3 times as a cold, sharp feeling solidified in her soul. She typed back a single reply. Go to hell. With trembling fingers, she severed the tethers. His number gone. Victoria's. Erased. Her mother's. Vanished. And then the phone went dark. In the ensuing quiet, Emma could feel the city's pulse through the glass, a million lives beating on, utterly oblivious that her own had just collapsed into dust. She curled into herself on the sofa, still clad in hospital scrubs, her gaze fixed on the blank wall until her eyes ached. Sleep was a distant shore. She was trapped instead in a loop of memory. The bus, the glint of steel, Adrienne's warning, the shadow at her door. It was a nightmare you couldn't wake from. Just after midnight, a sound pulled her from the wreckage. Footsteps, the rush of water, Adrian moving through his own world as if it were the most natural thing on earth. Emma wondered what it must feel like to be him, to walk through the world with that quiet command, that effortless power, to speak a decision and watch it become reality. She wondered what it would be like to no longer be a ghost. At nearly 200 a.m., exhaustion finally claimed her. She dreamt of buses that never arrived, of elevators without doors, of sinking in clear water as faceless crowds drifted past unseeing. When she awoke, a sliver of gray dawn cut through the blinds, and a soft knock came at her door. Emma, you awake? Adrienne's voice, a low and careful timbre. She sat up, adrift, her neck screaming from the angle she'd slept. Yes, I'm up. I've made coffee and breakfast if you want it. A traitorous growl answered from her stomach. She couldn't recall her last meal, save for that stale cafeteria sandwich. Give me 5 minutes. She stepped into a bathroom of cool marble. The towels were like condensed clouds. The soap smelled of a price per ounce she couldn't even fathom. She tried to assemble a presentable version of herself and mostly failed. Her hair was a wild tangle, her scrubs a map of wrinkles, and the shadows beneath her eyes were dark as bruises. When she emerged, Adrian was in the kitchen, now in jeans and a black tee that fit him unfairly well, his hair still damp from a shower. His gaze met hers and a small smile touched his lips. You look exhausted. Thank you. Just what a woman loves to hear. That smile deepened. I mean, you look like you need real rest. When was the last time you truly slept? Emma had to think. I can't remember. Then that's your job today. Eat, sleep, think about nothing. He pushed a plate across the island. Eggs, toast, a scatter of fruit. Sit. Too weary to resist, she sat and a wave of hunger hit her. The meal was simple but perfect, more nourishing than anything she'd made in months. Adrienne poured her coffee, then leaned against the counter, watching her. What? She managed around a bite of egg. Nothing. It's just good to see someone actually taste their food. When your diet is ramen and protein bars, she admitted, this is a banquet. A flicker of something crossed his features. Pity, maybe, or a deeper understanding. You won't have to live like that anymore. Emma put her fork down. I'm not a charity case. I never said you were. Then don't act like I am. They held each other's gaze for a heartbeat, the air between them crackling with sudden tension. Then Adrian lifted his hands, a gesture of surrender. You're right, my apologies. Emma resumed eating, slightly mollified. They sat in a shared silence as the city outside began to stir. Can I ask you something? Emma finally broke the quiet. Always. Why do you live by yourself in a place this enormous? Adrian surveyed the space as if noticing it for the first time. I don't know. I guess I need the space. Room to think. His eyes found hers again. It gets lonely, though. Is that what your place felt like? Lonely all the time, Emma confessed before she could stop the words. Adrian's expression softened into something unguarded. Not here. Not with you here. It should have sounded like a practiced line, something to make her raise her guard. Instead, it landed like a quiet promise. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Emma didn't feel invisible. 3 days passed in a strange, hazy quiet. Emma slept more than she had in years, waking in the vast bed, each morning a slow return to the strange reality of where she was and why. The apartment was a silent sanctuary during the day. Adrian would leave before sunrise and return after dark, his first act always to check on her. Did you eat? He would ask. Yes. Anyone disturb you? No. Good. Their brief exchanges became a ritual. Sometimes he would linger, asking about her quiet day, sharing a fragment of his. Other times he would retreat to his office, a ghost until the next morning. Emma explored the apartment like a lost curator in a private museum. She discovered a library with shelves that kissed the ceiling, a pristine gym that looked untouched, and a terrace she dared not step onto. The height a dizzying threat. It was all beautiful, expensive, and completely soulless, as if Adrian had paid a stranger to mimic life without ever truly living there himself. On the 4th morning, she found him in the kitchen, laptop open before him, a cup of coffee long gone cold at his elbow. You look terrible, she said. He glanced up, his eyes bloodshot. Thanks. Did you get any sleep? Not much. Emma poured her own coffee and took the seat opposite him. What are you working on? You. Her stomach tightened. What's that supposed to mean? Adrian shut the laptop, dragging a hand over his face. The Volovs. I'm trying to figure out how to make you a ghost in their world, and it's complicated. Everything about you is complicated. Emma clutched her warm mug. Tell me anyway? He watched her for a long moment, as if measuring how much truth she could bear. They're asking questions, hunting down every passenger from that bus. So far, 2 have gone missing. One of them washed up in the East River yesterday. The coffee soured in her stomach. God. I've passed the word that you're under my protection. It should buy us some time. Should? The Volovs and I, we have an arrangement. We stay out of each other's affairs. But this, he gestured around them, this is me interfering. So I'm a problem. You're a complication. What's the difference? Adrian offered a smile that held no warmth. Problems are eliminated. Complications require a new strategy. Emma set her mug down before her trembling hands gave her away. You talk about people dying as if it's just a line on a ledger. Because in my world, he said, it is. Your world is insane. Yes, he agreed with a chilling simplicity. It is. They sat in the heavy silence. Outside, the city roared to life. The drone of traffic, the cry of sirens, the mundane sounds of normal people living normal lives. I need to know, Emma said at last, and I need the truth. All right? Are you using me? Is all of this just a chess move against the Volovs? Adriana's entire posture went rigid. Is that what you believe? I don't know what to believe. You appear from nowhere. You knew just where I'd be. You have all this power at your fingertips. It seems convenient, doesn't it? Having leverage. You think you're leverage? He asked, his voice low. Am I not? He rose suddenly, turning his back to her to face the windows. When he finally spoke, his voice was laced with an emotion she couldn't name. That night, when I saw you standing in the downpour, looking like you'd taken one too many hits from the world, I had a choice. I could have kept driving, minded my own affairs, and let fate run its course. But you didn't. No. He turned to face her. Because you reminded me of someone I once knew, someone who was crushed by men with more power than they had a conscience. And I thought, for once, maybe I could do more than just survive. Maybe I could help. Who did I remind you of? Adrian's jaw clenched. My sister, before she died. The words settled between them, heavy with old grief. I'm sorry, Emma whispered. It was a long time ago. He moved back toward the table but remained standing. The truth, Emma, is that you stumbled into my world at the worst possible moment. I was already investigating the Volovs for other reasons, and then you fell into my lap, a witness, vulnerable and utterly alone. I should have made a call, had Marcus set you up somewhere safe, and then forgotten you ever existed. Why didn't you? Because I couldn't. His gaze locked with hers, raw and exposed. Because the second you looked at me on that street, something inside me changed, and I have no idea what to do about it. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. This is crazy. I know. You don't know me. I don't know you. I know, he repeated, taking a step closer. But I want to. Is that insane? Completely. Say the word and I'll stop. I'll keep you safe. Deal with the Volovs, and when it's over, you can walk away. I won't follow. Emma thought of her tiny apartment, her soul-crushing job, the family that only called when they wanted something. She thought of being a ghost, fading a little more each day. What if I don't want you to stop? The words left her before she could catch them. Adrienne froze. Then we have a problem. I thought I was a complication. You are both. He closed the remaining space between them, his presence electric. This can't work, Emma, my life, what I am. It's not a shallow pool you can test with your toe. It is the entire ocean, all or nothing. Maybe I'm sick of nothing. You don't understand what you're saying. Don't you dare tell me what I know. She rose to her feet, meeting his gaze. I have spent my whole life making myself smaller, quieter, apologizing for taking up space, and it got me nowhere, with no one. So maybe crazy is what I need. Adriana's hand lifted, his fingers gently cupping her jaw, his thumb tracing the line of her cheek. I can't offer you safety, he admitted, nor can I give you a normal life. Safety, she whispered, was not what she wanted. Normalcy was not her desire. Emma's voice fell, barely audible. I need to feel like I matter. You already do, then show me. The kiss that followed was not gentle, nor was it hesitant. It was a fierce, desperate collision, as if a dam inside him had finally burst. Emma met his intensity, her hands balling his shirt, pulling him ever closer. When they parted for air, breathless, Adrian pressed his forehead to hers. "This is an absolutely terrible idea." The very worst, Emma breathed in agreement. 1 week, she leaned back, searching his eyes. "What? Just give me 1 week to show you what this world can be, what it truly is, not confined to this apartment, but out there by my side. If at the week's end you still wish to leave, I will let you. I'll ensure your safety, establish you somewhere new, and you will never see me again." "And if I choose not to leave?" His smile was a slow, dangerous thing. Then he said, "We find out just how deep this rabbit hole goes." Emma knew the smart, cautious, reasonable answer was no. Instead, she asked, "When do we begin?" "Tonight." Adrienne's phone vibrated. A glance at the screen hardened his features. "I need to deal with the situation. Wait here. Marcus is downstairs for whatever you need." "What kind of situation?" "The Volofs. I have a meeting with Dmitri. He's the family's patriarch. I'm going to ensure he understands you are untouchable." A spike of fear shot through Emma's chest. "Is it dangerous? Everything I do carries danger." He gave her a quick kiss on the forehead. "I'll return before dinner, and then we're going out." "Where to "You'll see." He vanished before she could press him for more, leaving Emma alone with her spiraling thoughts and the ghost of his kiss on her lips. She sought distraction in a book from his library, but found she couldn't focus. She tried television, but it all seemed hollow and insignificant. In the end, she paced the apartment, compulsively checking her phone, though there was no one she could call. At around 3 p.m., Marcus appeared with grocery bags. "Mr. Castellano sent these up," he announced, placing them on the kitchen island. "He thought you might feel like cooking." Emma just gazed at the contents. "Fresh produce, quality cuts of meat, real butter." "He anticipates everything, doesn't he?" "It's what he does." Marcus hesitated at the door. "May I speak freely, Mrs. Carter?" "Emma? I've been with Mr. Castellano for 8 years. I've seen him around many people. He has never looked at anyone the way he looks at you." "Is that meant as a warning?" "It's simply an observation." Marcus's face was a perfect mask. "He's a decent man, in a very indecent line of work. Try to remember that when things get messy." After he departed, Emma unpacked the food, wondering what to prepare. She wasn't an accomplished chef, having had little chance to practice in her small apartment with its basic tools, but Adrienne's kitchen was a chef's paradise, filled with high-end equipment and perfectly sharpened knives. She decided on pasta carbonara, simple yet elegant. By the time Adrienne returned at 6:30, the scent of garlic and bacon filled the air, and a table was set for 2. He paused at the entrance, observing the scene. "You cooked?" "Try not to sound so astonished. I have a few hidden talents, so I see." He slipped off his jacket, loosening his tie. "How was your day?" "It was quiet, uneventful. And your meeting with Dmitri?" Adrienne's expression became meticulously blank. "It was productive. That's not a real answer. An agreement was made for him to leave you undisturbed. In return, he is owed a favor." A cold knot formed in Emma's stomach. "What sort of favor?" "The kind that I will handle when the time comes." He moved toward the table, pulling out her chair. "Right now, let's just eat. This looks incredible." The pasta was good, not gourmet, but definitely respectable. They ate while talking about trivial things, and Emma felt herself, against all odds, begin to relax. Adrienne possessed a dry wit that constantly surprised her. And when he smiled, a genuine smile, it transformed his entire demeanor. After their meal, he vanished into his room, re-emerging with the black dress over his arm. "This is for tonight," he offered, holding it out. Emma accepted it, the expensive silk cool against her fingers. "Where are we going exactly?" "Dancing. I can't dance. I can't either. We'll learn as we go." The dress fit as if made for her, an impossible feat since Adrienne had never inquired about her size. Emma stared at her reflection, barely recognizing the woman looking back. The gown was understated, but chic, revealing just enough to be alluring without being overt. She found Adrienne in the living room, now in a suit that likely cost more than her annual income. He took her in with a slow, appreciative gaze, his eyes darkening. "You look stunning." A blush warmed Emma's cheeks. "You clean up pretty well yourself." "Come on," he said. "We're running late." The club was located in a corner of Manhattan Emma had never visited, the type of establishment where finding the entrance required connections. Inside was a world of dim lights, smooth jazz, and patrons who looked as if they belonged on a magazine cover. Adrienne guided her through the throng, his hand resting on the small of her back. She saw the way people watched them, or more accurately, watched him, with a mixture of respect and fear, as if they knew precisely who he was and what he could do. He led them to a secluded booth in the back. A waitress materialized instantly with champagne Emma hadn't seen him order. "From the house, Mr. Castellano." "My thanks, Diane." Clear's throat. When they were alone once more, Emma arched a brow. "Do you visit here often?" "I own it." "Of course you do." He smiled, pouring them each a flute, to fresh starts. Emma touched her glass to his, and to terrible ideas, the champagne was exquisite, unlike anything she had ever tasted before. Tiny bubbles danced across her tongue. On the floor, couples swayed to the band's slow, sultry music. "Tell me about your sister," Emma ventured after a moment. Adrienne's smile vanished. "That's a heavy topic for a first date. Is that what we're on? A date? I don't know what else I would call it." "Then tell me," she insisted. "I need to know." He was silent for a long time, his gaze lost in his glass. Her name was Sophia. She was my junior by 4 years. Bright, full of life, she dreamed of being a teacher. His jaw clenched. "We were raised in Queens. Our father was a nobody, a construction worker when there was work to be had. Our mother was a housekeeper. We had very little, but for the most part we were happy. What went wrong? I fell in with the wrong crowd. I began running small jobs for a neighborhood outfit, earning cash, more in a week than my father saw in a month. I thought I was being clever, helping out my family." He let out a bitter laugh. "I was 17 and a fool." Emma waited, knowing the story wasn't over. Sophia discovered what I was involved in, and she pleaded with me to stop. We argued. She threatened to tell my parents. Adrienne's knuckles whitened around his glass. The men I worked for got wind of it and saw her as a potential risk. They took her from the street one afternoon after school. 3 days later, her body was found in a dumpster in the Bronx. "Adrienne, I ended every one of them," he murmured, "every last person connected to it. It took me 2 years, but I made sure they were all gone. And when it was over, I found I had a talent for it. A talent for identifying problems and making them disappear. For being the man that others feared." Emma reached out, her hand covering his. "I am so sorry, don't be. I chose this path. I built this life with my own 2 hands." He met her eyes. But there are times I wonder what might have been if I had just left it all behind. If I had been normal, you would have been miserable." He laughed, startled. "What makes you say that? Because people like you and me, we don't belong in that ordinary world. We're too fractured with too many sharp edges. A normal life would feel like slowly suffocating." Emma squeezed his hand. "At least in this life, you are free." Adrienne looked at her as if truly seeing her for the first time. "How can you be so understanding of what I am?" "I'm not. It horrifies me." She drained her glass. "But I have lived my entire life horrified and playing by the rules, and it led me nowhere. So perhaps it is time I tried horrified and reckless." "You are not what I anticipated?" "Good. Anticipation is a trap." The music shifted, becoming slower, more personal. Adrian rose and held out his hand. "Dance with me. I already told you I don't dance, and I told you we will figure it out together." On the dance floor, he drew her near, one hand on her waist, the other entwined with hers. Emma had always been clumsy when dancing, too self-aware, too conscious of her own form. But with Adrian, none of it mattered. He led with a quiet certainty, and she found herself moving with him, their bodies swaying as if they had done this 100 times before. "This is nice," she murmured into his shoulder. "It is. But tomorrow I want the truth. The whole truth. About what you do, about what being with you would truly entail." Adrian drew back just enough to meet her gaze. "Are you certain?" "No, but I have to ask anyway." "Fine," he conceded. "Tomorrow you get the truth." He kissed her temple. "But for tonight, we just have this." They remained on the floor until Emma's feet ached and the champagne had muddled her thoughts. Adrian escorted her home, to the penthouse she had started to think of as home, a dangerous but honest admission, and saw her to her bedroom door. "My thanks," Emma whispered, "for this evening, for granting me this chance." Her kiss was unhurried and profound, leaving them both breathless. As she drew back, a raw wanting had darkened Adrian's eyes. "Just 1 week," she murmured as a reminder. "1 week," he conceded, his voice a low growl. Emma vanished into her room, shutting the door against a heart that hammered at her ribs. She sensed him lingering in the hall before his steps finally faded away. Dressed for sleep, she lay staring at the ceiling, her life now fractured into 2 distinct eras, before Adrian and everything after. Tomorrow the truth would be laid bare. Tomorrow she would have to choose if she could survive in his reality. But for this one night, she allowed herself to feel cherished, noticed, as if she truly mattered. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Emma drifted to sleep with a smile. She awoke to the sun bathing her room in light and the aroma of coffee. For a fleeting second, she basked in the warmth, the softness, the stillness. Then the weight of the day descended. Today, Adrian would reveal the full truth of his existence and what sharing it with him would demand of her. Wearing jeans and a new shirt he had mysteriously provided, Emma found him in the kitchen, engrossed in his tablet. "Morning," he offered, his gaze fixed on the screen. "Morning?" She poured a coffee and took the seat opposite him. "So, the truth?" Adrian placed his tablet aside, offering her his undivided focus. "What is it you need to know?" "Everything. Begin with what you really do, the unvarnished version." He inhaled slowly. "I manage a network that resolves issues for exceedingly wealthy and powerful people. Sometimes that's providing security. Other times it's gathering intelligence." And sometimes it's making certain individuals vanish. Vanish? Emma echoed. You mean you eliminate them? On occasion, not always, but yes, it's a facet of the work. A cold knot formed in Emma's stomach, but her voice remained level. How many people have you personally eliminated? Are you certain you want that figure? Yes. 23 by my own hand. The number is higher if you include those I've ordered removed. 23, the number echoed in her mind as she struggled to align it with the man who'd made her breakfast, who'd danced with her. Do you feel remorse? For some of them. The majority deserved their fate. His gaze locked with hers. I understand how that must sound. I know you see a monster. I see someone complex. That is a charitable view. Emma clutched her mug tightly. Tell me about the Vulovs, what you did to keep me safe. Dmitri required proof you were not a liability. I provided him your phone records, your work rota, your entire life's data. I proved you were precisely who you seem, a caregiver caught in the wrong place. And he accepted it. He decided the favor I owed him was more valuable than your removal. Adrienne's face hardened. I made it clear that if his organization laid a hand on you, I would incinerate his entire enterprise. Would you have? Yes. The stark finality in his tone sent a chill through Emma's very core. What is this favor he holds over you? I don't know yet. That is the nature of these arrangements. He will collect when he has a need, and I will fulfill it. That doesn't frighten you? Everything frightens me, Emma. I am merely more skilled at concealing it than most. She observed him from across the table, this man who had taken 23 lives, who commanded a criminal syndicate, who had overturned her world in less than a week. Why me? And don't tell me it's about your sister. Why are you truly doing all of this? Adrienne remained silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw with emotion. Because I looked at you and saw someone life had battered, yet who refused to fall. Someone who was owed far more than the world had ever offered. And I had a thought that perhaps if I could help you, give you a genuine opportunity, it might begin to balance the scales. For all the wrong I've done, all the darkness, perhaps one single good act could make a difference. I am not your path to redemption, Adrienne. I know, but you could be my reason to seek it. Emma's throat constricted. She rose and walked to the window, gazing at the sprawling city below. If I remain, if I agree to this week and all that follows, what does it make me? It makes you a person who chose to truly live, not merely to exist. It makes me an accomplice to your actions. Yes, he conceded softly. It does. She spun to face him. Then you must understand this. I will not become some mobster's wife, turning a blind eye and feigning ignorance about my husband's affairs. If I am part of this, I am all in. I will know your business, I will have views on it, and I will likely drive you to madness. A slow, authentic smile spread across Adrienne's face. I am counting on that. I'm not joking. I won't contort myself to fit inside your world. I would never want you to. He closed the distance between them, taking her hands. I am drawn to you precisely as you are, the way you challenge my nonsense, the way you will not be cowed, the way you see me as a man, not just a creature of the night. But you are a monster. I know. But you see something else in me as well, something more. Adrienne drew her into an embrace, his chin resting on her hair. 1 week. That was our pact. 6 days remain for you to decide if you can truly coexist with this life. Emma encircled his waist, holding on as if to an anchor. What is our agenda for today? I have a meeting this afternoon I cannot reschedule. Accompany me. Witness what my life truly entails. Is it safe? Marcus will be there, along with 3 others I'd entrust with my life. You will be protected. Emma leaned back, meeting his eyes. You're truly going to show me the ugly truth of it all? You asked for honesty. This is what it looks like? 2 hours later, Emma was in the rear of Adrienne's SUV, with Marcus at the wheel, en route to a Brooklyn warehouse. She was dressed differently now, in dark jeans and a leather jacket he'd materialized from nowhere, with heeled boots that lent her a sense of danger. You seem terrified, Adrienne noted quietly. I am. Good. Fear hones the senses. He gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. Stay by my side. Say nothing unless I make an introduction. And if I signal for you to leave, you go with Marcus instantly, no debate. You're making this sound very appealing. A corner of his mouth lifted. I just want you to be aware of what you're stepping into. The warehouse was a cliché of the underworld. Gray, industrial, and menacing. Marcus navigated to a side entry where a pair of men in suits stood watch. They gave Adrienne a deferential nod and pointedly ignored Emma. The interior was a strange conversion, resembling an office with desks and computers where people toiled in silence. Yet, an undercurrent of contained violence permeated the air. Adrienne guided her through the room with a hand on the small of her back, and Emma felt the weight of every gaze following her. She maintained a straight spine and a passive face. A mask she had perfected in the hospital amid the chaos of life and death. They concluded their walk in a conference room where 3 men were already seated. All 3 rose as Adrienne came in. After brief greetings, their attention landed on Emma. This is Emma, Adrienne stated plainly. She is with me. That seemed to be all the context required. They nodded and resumed their seats. The discussion revolved around logistics, shipping manifests, payment structures, and a complication with a client in Miami. Emma listened intently, deciphering their veiled terminology. It dawned on her slowly that they were discussing firearms, a significant quantity of them. Adrienne managed the conversation with detached precision, making swift decisions and assigning duties. It was another version of him, colder, harder, more calculating. The man who had prepared her breakfast that morning felt a world away. Once the meeting was over and they were alone, Adrienne watched her intently. Are you all right? You deal in armaments, among other things. To whom? To clients who require them for purposes I do not question. Emma's thoughts were a whirlwind. This is overwhelming. I know. He led her from the warehouse toward the SUV. We can stop, return to the apartment, put this week behind us. But Emma refused with a shake of her head. She had requested this, asked to witness his world. No, show me the rest. Adrienne regarded her for a long beat, then gave a single nod. Very well, our next stop. They visited 3 more places that afternoon. A nightclub acting as a money laundering hub. Then a restaurant where Adrienne met a judge clearly on his payroll, followed by a parking garage where a transfer occurred that Emma purposely chose not to examine too closely. It was dark by the time they returned to the penthouse, and a dull ache throbbed in Emma's temples. I need something strong, she declared. Adrienne poured them each a whiskey. They sat in stillness, the city's lights twinkling below. Well, he finally broke the silence. What is your assessment? Emma finished her drink in a single swallow. You weren't exaggerating. Your life is tangled. That's a polite description. I won't pretend I'm comfortable with what I witnessed today. The weapons, the dirty money, the people who are visibly terrified of you. She turned to look at him. But I also observed you managing it all with more skill and intellect than most legitimate CEOs I've ever encountered. You are not merely a brute. You are strategic and brilliant. Is that meant to make it better? It doesn't make it better. It makes it tangible. Emma got up and moved to the window. I spend my day seeing you command your domain. And do you know my persistent thought? What? That I wanted to be a part of it. A wild, frantic laugh escaped her. I'm losing my mind. I know it. But seeing you own that room, seeing the respect and fear you inspire, I felt a pull towards it. I wanted to have that kind of impact. Adrian came to stand behind her, his hands resting on her shoulders. You have an impact on me. I understand, she murmured, turning in his arms. But I need to mean something to myself. Her voice was a fragile whisper. My entire life I have been invisible. But with you, today I felt seen, powerful just by standing in your shadow. Is there something twisted in that? No, he said. It's what makes us human. With a raw, desperate need, Emma's lips found his, and Adrian met her intensity with his own. They parted, breathless, before she spoke again, her voice low. Give me the rest of this week. Every last second, unveil it all. She looked him in the eye. Adrian, I am not some delicate thing. I will not shatter. Show me the entirety of your world, and then I will see if I can breathe its air. His gaze bore into hers. Are you certain? No, she admitted, but I'm stepping into the fire regardless. A genuine, warm smile finally broke through his guard. You're here to shatter my world completely, aren't you? It's likely. Good, he breathed, kissing her forehead. I could do with the chaos. Over dinner on the terrace, a new intimacy bloomed. Emma, her vertigo forgotten, spoke of trifles and truths. Adrian, in turn, unspooled the story of his queen's boyhood, of his first work for a man named Vincent Romano, and of the stark moment he discovered his own capacity for violence. Emma shared her own ghosts, a family that saw only disappointment, the sting of Ryan and Victoria, and the fateful wedding invitation that set everything in motion. Do you still hold love for him? Adrian asked, his voice soft. No, she confessed, her eyes on the cityscape. I don't think I ever did. I was in love with the fantasy of being cherished by someone like him. I was so desperate for anyone to see me, I never noticed that he never did. None of them ever saw you, he said. But I do. I know. She reached for his hand, their fingers lacing. That's what frightens me most. A comfortable quiet settled between them as the city lights began to bleed into a blur, and a deep weariness settled into Emma's bones. At her door, Adriana gave her a simple goodnight kiss, and she fell into a sleep haunted by visions of steel and currency, and the intoxicating feel of power in her grasp. Only 4 more days remained. 4 days to choose if she could survive in the world of Adriana Castellano. Yet as sleep claimed her, a deeper truth surfaced. The choice was already made. It was sealed in that first kiss, in her plea for him to reveal everything. She was far too deep to ever surface again. And the most terrifying part? She had no desire to. The next morning, Emma was pulled from sleep by the insistent vibration of her phone. For days she had kept it silent, a barrier against the world, but habit had made her power it on the night before. Now it buzzed with a call from a blocked number. A flicker of hesitation, then an impulse made her accept. "Hello, Emma Carter." The voice was female, professional, and devoid of warmth. "Who is this?" "My name is Detective Sarah Chen, NYPD. I have some questions for you regarding an incident on a city bus approximately 1 week ago." Ice flooded Emma's veins. She sat bolt upright, sleep completely gone. "I already gave my statement." "No, Miss Carter," the voice cut in. "You did not. You departed the scene prior to the arrival of our officers. You are currently listed as a material witness who declined to cooperate with an active investigation." "I didn't decline. Emma's voice trailed off. What words could she possibly use? Could she explain that a cryptic stranger had warned her away? That she was now living in that very man's penthouse as he arbitrated with criminals for her? "I'd like you to come to the precinct today to clarify some things." "I'm not certain that's possible." "That wasn't a request, Miss Carter." The line clicked dead. Emma sat motionless, the phone a cold weight in her hand as dread coiled in her stomach. Throwing on clothes, she found Adrian in his office, ending a call. He raised one finger, finishing in a torrent of sharp Italian before giving her his full attention. "What is it?" As she recounted the detective's call, Adrian's face grew harder with every sentence. "Did you tell her you would go?" "No, I didn't know what to do." He rose, pulling out his phone and tapping the screen with sharp movements. "Detective Sarah Chen, you said?" "Yes, how did you—" "I'm dealing with it." He placed a second call, his voice once more a clipped, authoritative Italian. After he hung up, his eyes were on Emma again. "You will not speak to her. You will not speak to anyone from the NYPD. If they contact you again, you will not answer." "Adrienne, I can't just blow off the police." "You can," he countered, "when they're on a fishing trip. Chen isn't looking into the bus incident. They closed that case 3 days ago after their suspect was found dead in New Jersey. She's pursuing a different target." "What target?" "Me." Adrian paced the window, his entire frame rigid. "Someone tipped her off that you're with me. Now she's using you as leverage to pry into my affairs." A sickening knot formed in Emma's stomach. "So, it's my fault. I'm the vulnerability." "No, you are the person they believe they can break." He turned, his gaze softening almost imperceptibly. "But they are mistaken. You possess no information that could harm me, and even if you did, you wouldn't use it." "How can you be so sure?" "Because you are still here," he said simply. "Because you chose to see my world instead of fleeing from it. Because you have more strength than they could ever imagine." And Emma desperately wanted to believe him. She wanted to feel the iron confidence in his voice, but instead, she felt herself sinking. What if they come for me, for obstruction? "They won't." "You can't promise that." "Yes," he said, his voice absolute. "I can." Adrian's phone buzzed, and as he read the screen, his jaw tightened. "I need to take care of this. Remain here. Do not answer your phone. Open the door for no one but Marcus." "Where are you headed?" "To ensure Detective Chen fully comprehends that you are not to be touched." A spike of pure terror went through her. "What does that mean, Adrian? You can't go after a police officer." "I'm not going to harm a soul. I'm going to have a talk." He kissed her, swift and already gone, moving for the door. "Have faith in me." Then he vanished, leaving Emma alone with the storm in her mind and the cold, awful feeling that she had just made everything infinitely worse. She sought distraction in breakfast she couldn't taste and a book she couldn't read. Anything to silence the frantic spiral of her thoughts. It was useless. By midday, she was a prisoner in the lavish apartment, pacing and flinching at every noise. At 1 p.m., Marcus appeared with a lunch she knew she couldn't touch. "He's all right," Marcus stated, easily reading her frantic energy. "The boss knows his way around the police." "Does he? This seems like an excellent way to get locked up for life." "Mr. Castellano isn't the one who goes to prison," Marcus said flatly. "The people who get in his way do." Emma just stared at him. "And that should reassure me." "It should make you realize who you are with." Marcus placed the food down. "Look, I see it. You're terrified. This life is terrifying. But Adrian is the master of his domain, and his domain is survival. If you stay by his side, you survive with him. Unless I'm no longer an asset." "You are not a liability," he said, his tone softening. "You're the only person in 8 years I've seen him give a damn about." Marcus moved toward the door. "That makes you the single most guarded individual in this entire city." After he was gone, Emma gazed out the window at the city teeming below. Countless people living their ordinary lives, wrestling with ordinary troubles. She could have been one. She should have been one. But here she was, waiting for a dangerous man to return from intimidating a detective for her sake. Her phone began to ring once more. It was Detective Chen. Emma rejected the call, then blocked the contact. 10 minutes passed and it rang again from a new number. She blocked that one too. The third time, Emma finally answered, her voice tight. "Leave me alone." "Miss Carter, I would strongly suggest you reconsider. Obstructing a federal investigation is a significant offense." "I know nothing. I was on a bus. Some men came aboard, they took another man, and I left. That is the extent of my knowledge." "And your association with Adrienne Castellano?" Emma's hand clenched the phone. "I have no association with Adrienne Castellano." "Is that so? My intelligence suggests you've been residing at his private penthouse for the last week." "Quite a story, wouldn't you say? A nursing assistant struggling with rent, suddenly living with one of New York's most notorious figures." "I have no idea what you mean." "Oh, I believe you do," Chen countered. "And when you're prepared to be truthful, you will discover I can be a very powerful ally. Witness protection, a new name, a clean slate far from this life." The detective's voice became a conspiratorial whisper. "Consider it, Emma. Is he truly worth taking the fall for?" The line went dead. Emma stood frozen, Chen's offer echoing in her thoughts. A clean slate, a new life, an escape. The temptation was a physical pull, yet when she pictured it, leaving, returning to her old existence, or starting fresh, the only thing she could feel was a profound void. Adrienne had seen the truth in her. She no longer craved the safety of a normal life. She craved significance. She craved the raw feeling of being alive, even if the price was her own destruction. He returned 2 hours later, weariness etched on his face, but a grim satisfaction in his eyes. Emma confronted him the instant he crossed the threshold. "What did you do?" "We had a discussion, Adrienne." He let out a long breath, loosening his tie. "I simply reminded Detective Chen of the internal affairs inquiry into her conduct from the past 6 months. Allegations of evidence tampering? I merely proposed how unfortunate it would be if that investigation were to suddenly uncover new, corroborating proof." Emma's jaw went slack. "You threatened a detective." "I advised her to concentrate on investigations with substantial proof, rather than pursuing hunches that could only damage her career. That's blackmail. That's leverage. Adrienne poured a drink, consuming it in a single motion. She will not be a problem for you again. You can't be sure of that, Emma whispered. He turned to her then, his gaze unwavering. For 15 years, this has been my world. I manage police. I manage criminals. I manage the space between them. Chen will retreat because she is intelligent enough to recognize when she is thoroughly outmaneuvered. Emma wanted to fight him, to scream that this was madness, that it was all destined to implode. But all she said was, "She called me again while you were gone. She offered a clean slate, a new life, if I would turn on you." A chilling stillness settled over Adrienne's features. And your reply? I told her she had the wrong person and ended the call. And that was the truth. You're not reconsidering. Emma closed the distance, cradling his face in her hands. I'm considering everything. This is horrifying, tangled, and will almost certainly end in disaster, but I'm not leaving. I gave my word for 1 week. A fraction of the tension left Adrienne's frame. He drew her into an embrace, holding her as if she were an anchor. 3 more days, she echoed the thought. For a long beat, they simply stood, breathing as one, drawing strength from the closeness. Then Adrienne eased away. Get changed, something elegant. We have an appointment. Where? To see someone who is eager to meet you. An hour later, Emma was enveloped in another gown from a world she didn't know, a deep sapphire that turned her eyes to slate. They were driven to a restaurant in Tribeca, the kind of establishment where tables were booked seasons in advance and the menus were devoid of prices. Who is it we're meeting? Emma pressed for the 3rd time. Someone of consequence. That tells me nothing. Adrienne's lips curved into a slight smile. Patience. The venue was every bit as refined as Emma had envisioned, a sea of white linen, hushed tones, and servers who drifted with the grace of dancers. Adrienne guided her to a secluded room where a woman waited. She appeared to be in her 60s, her silver hair coiled in a flawless chignon, her gaze missing no detail. Her face brightened upon seeing Adrienne. Adrienne, my dear, she rose, kissing him on both cheeks. It has been far too long. Hello, Sophia. The woman's focus then shifted to Emma, appraising her with a single, comprehensive glance. And you must be Emma. I've heard a great deal about you. Emma's eyes flickered to Adrienne, who was suddenly fascinated by a point on the far wall. You have? It's all he speaks of lately. A welcome change. He's typically so consumed by his work. Sophia motioned for them to be seated. I am Sophia Marinette. I've known Adrian since he was 18 and making dreadful choices in Queens. So, very long time, Emma remarked, drawing a soft laugh from Sophia. I approve of her, Sophia told Adrienne. She has steel in her. They placed an order for food. Emma was too unsettled to even consider eating. Sophia began her inquiries, not quite an interrogation, but a meticulous line of questioning. Her origins, her profession, the circumstances of their meeting. Emma replied with the truth, conveniently omitting the details of firearms on public transport and inquisitive detectives. Adrienne informs me you are contemplating an entry into our world, Sophia said after a time. Your world, the Enterprise, this existence. Sophia's look was profoundly knowing. It is no small decision. Once you are part of it, there is no simple exit. I'm beginning to realize that. Are you? Sophia leaned in. Because from my vantage point, you seem to be a woman still trying to justify this path to herself. Emma felt Adrian stiffen beside her, but her gaze remained locked with Sophia's. I'm not trying to justify anything. I am trying to comprehend the commitment before I make it. Wise. Too many leap without looking and are lost. Sophia raised her wine glass. And what is your assessment of our Adrian? I think he's dangerous, convoluted, and will likely cause my heart to fail before this is done. And yet you remain. And yet I remain. A true smile touched Sophia's lips. A good response. Honesty is a rare commodity in this line of work. The dinner transitioned to lighter topics, with Sophia recounting tales from Adrian's youth. He grew visibly more uncomfortable as Emma was regaled with stories of his past blunders and brushes with death. There was one occasion, Sophia began, her eyes glinting with amusement, when Adrian, elected to confront the Bratva alone, marched directly into their base and insisted they cease moving goods through his domain. I was 22 and reckless, Adrian grumbled. You were 22 and fortunate they valued your audacity enough to spare your life. Sophia addressed Emma directly. He emerged with 2 fractured ribs and a concussion, but he secured his objective. Emma stared at Adrian. You faced down the Russian Mafia by yourself. As I said, I was reckless. You were bold, Sophia amended. Reckless and bold are not mutually exclusive. As dinner concluded, Sophia bid them farewell, telling Emma to contact her should she ever have need. A woman's counsel, a confidant, a way out. For anything you require, I am here. In the car, Emma faced Adrian. Who is she, truly? Sophia Marinette commands the most extensive information network on the East Coast. If there is a secret to be known, she is the one who knows it. And she's your ally. She's the closest I have to a family. A rare softness filled Adrian's face. When my world fell apart, Sophia was the one who found me, gave me purpose, and showed me how to navigate this life without losing what was left of my soul. She's remarkable. She's formidable. Adrian took her hand. But she took a liking to you. That is not insignificant. Why does her opinion of me matter? Because Sophia's endorsement carries weight in our circle. It means our enemies will hesitate before targeting you. It means your safety is reinforced by more than just my presence. The realization dawned on Emma. You're positioning me, ensuring I have protection if you're not around. That is the intent. Adrian! 3 more days, Emma. 3 more days until your choice. But regardless of your decision, your safety is my priority. He gave her hand a firm squeeze. That part is not up for debate. They returned to the penthouse in a shared silence, each consumed by their private thoughts. At her door, Adrian performed his usual ritual, a soft goodnight kiss. But tonight, Emma caught his hand before he could retreat. Stay. Adrian froze. Emma! I'm not asking for anything beyond your company. I simply do not wish to be alone this evening. He searched her eyes for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. All right. They laid on the bed over the covers, still dressed, Emma's head resting on his chest, his arms securely around her. The steady, strong rhythm of his heart anchored her in the swirling chaos of her mind. Tell me something honest, she whispered into the dimness. About? About you. Something no one else has ever heard. The silence stretched so long she thought he would refuse, then his voice, low and raw. I am terrified of you. She pushed herself up to look at him. What? Everything I have constructed, every barrier I have raised, every line of defense. You moved through them as if they were mist, and I have no idea how to contend with that. His hand rose to gently sweep a strand of hair from her cheek. You make me desire things I had long since abandoned. Simple things, a life beyond mere existence. That isn't frightening, that's being human. In my life, being human is a fatal flaw. Emma settled back down against him. Then perhaps it's time for a different life. Perhaps. They drifted to sleep in that tangle of limbs. When Emma woke to the pale light of dawn, Adrian was still there, his hold unbroken, his breath still matched to her own. She weighed Detective Chen's offer in her mind. A clean break, a new beginning, security. Then she considered this moment. Adrian's arms holding her, his heartbeat a steady drum beneath her ear, the chance to be someone who truly mattered to someone. There was simply no comparison. The following 2 days were a whirlwind of introductions and strategy sessions, each conversation revealing another facet of Adrian's empire. Emma met his lieutenants, observed the flow of his operations, and began to grasp the sheer scale of his influence. It should have unnerved her far more than it did. Instead, she was captivated. The way Adrian inspired loyalty without coercion, the way he resolved conflicts with clinical efficiency, the way his people regarded him. It was a mixture of respect and fear, tinged with something akin to reverence. And he kept her at his side through it all. He concealed nothing. He made no attempt to disguise the harsh truths of his world. On the 6th night, her final night of deliberation, Adrian brought her back to the club. They moved together on the dance floor as they had before, but now the air was heavier, charged with the unspoken knowledge that their world was on a precipice. Tomorrow, Adrian murmured against her hair. Tomorrow you decide. I know. There will be no anger if you walk away. I will honor my word. I will ensure your safety, find you a new place. I will let you go. Emma leaned back, meeting his eyes. Is that what you want? I want you to be content, protected, and unbound. That isn't what I asked. Adrian's jaw clenched. I want you to remain. I want you to embrace this life, to choose me, the chaos, the risk, all of it. But I am also aware of how selfish that is. Maybe I want to be selfish as well. Emma. She silenced him with a kiss. When they finally parted, their breathing ragged, she said, I have one more question, and I need absolute honesty. Anything? This debt you owe Dmitry Volkov. What if his price is something that puts me at risk? What if protecting me and settling your obligation become impossible to reconcile? Adrian's face turned to granite. Then I will burn the Volkov organization to the ground and live with the fallout. You would ignite a war for my sake. Without a moment's pause, Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. That's madness. I'm aware. You barely know me. I know what matters. His hands cupped her face, his gaze intense. I know you are strong, intelligent, and more courageous than you realize. I know that you see me. Truly see me. Not the caricature, not the power, not the wealth. I know that losing you would leave a void in me I am not certain I could endure. Adrian, I love you. The words felt torn from her, raw and unguarded. I know this is too fast, and I know you may not be ready for it, but it's the truth, and your choice tomorrow changes nothing about that. Emma felt the air leave her lungs, her thoughts scattering. The music pulsed around them, the crowd a blur of motion, the entire world spinning on as hers came to a dead stop. Speak to me, Adrian urged in a low voice. I don't know what to say. The truth, It's the only thing I've ever asked for." Emma drew a ragged breath, a confession trembling on her lips. "I think I love you, and that thought is more terrifying than any of this." He drew her in, holding her as if she were smoke, ready to vanish. They moved with the music, no longer a dance, but a desperate anchor in the storm. Back in the silence of the penthouse, she bypassed her own door, following him to his. As he turned, a question in his eyes, she answered it with a kiss that poured out her entire soul. Their union was slow, reverent, a fragile thing they were both terrified to shatter. Later, with city lights casting ghosts on the ceiling, a resolution settled in Emma's heart. "I'm staying," she whispered into the quiet. Adrian's body went rigid beside her. "Are you certain?" "No, but I'm choosing this anyway." She turned, her eyes finding his in the dark. "I'm done with safe. I want this. I want you. I want to stop being a ghost and become someone real. You're real to me, that's all that matters." Emma's lips brushed his. "Whatever is coming, we face it as one." He pulled her closer, a wave of profound relief washing from him. They drifted into sleep, their bodies entwined, and she dreamed of empires of fire and ruin, of a man who could see her when the world looked straight through. When she woke, he was already there, watching her. "Morning," she murmured. "Good morning." He swept a stray strand of hair from her cheek. "Any regrets? Check back with me in a year." A faint smile touched his lips. "I can do that." Her phone vibrated on the bedside table, a jarring intrusion. She snatched it, an unfamiliar number glowing on the screen. Against all reason, she answered. "Hello, Emma, it's your mother." A pit of ice formed in Emma's stomach. "How did you get this number?" "That's irrelevant. What is relevant is your sister's wedding in 3 days, for which we've received no reply." "I'm not going." A cold silence stretched across the line. "Pardon me." "I am not attending the wedding. Tell Victoria I'm sorry, but I can't." "Emma Christine Carter, you will be at that wedding. I will not tolerate this childish tantrum. This isn't family. It's you and Victoria playing make-believe while I'm forced to watch the man I loved marry my sister. I will not pretend anymore. I am through with shrinking myself to make everyone else feel large." Where is this sudden defiance coming from? Maybe it's long overdue. Emma pushed herself up, feeling Adrian's hand on her back, a warm, solid anchor. "I am not coming, nor am I apologizing. If you want to be upset, then be upset. But this is my life now, and I will live it." She ended the call, cutting off her mother's certain reply. "That was brave," Adrian said softly. "That was necessary." Emma met his gaze. "No more apologizing for taking up space. No more being invisible. From this moment, I exist." "You always existed. I see that now." Adrian's kiss was slow, deep, and final. Emma felt a fundamental shift inside, the last remnant of her former self crumbling away as the new one settled into its place. She was finished with merely surviving, with being overlooked. Emma Carter had chosen the storm, embraced the peril, and selected a path that might end in ruin, but it would be a ruin of her own making. For the first time in 32 years, she felt utterly, frighteningly alive. 2 days after she cut the cord with her mother, Adrian's phone rang at 4 a.m. She felt the change in him instantly, his voice shifting from the soft tones of sleep to the sharp edge of a blade. A pause. "How many?" Another, heavier silence. "I'm on my way." He was already moving, pulling on clothes in the darkness as Emma sat up, What is it? The Vulofs. They hit a warehouse. 3 of my men are gone, along with 500,000 in merchandise. Adriana's face was stone in the pre-dawn gloom. Dimitri is calling in his marker. Emma felt a chill creep into her veins. What does he want? He wants me to look away while he carves out his territory, which means sanctioning the removal of 2 of my own people who are in his path. Adrian secured a pistol Emma hadn't known was there. I need to handle this. You said you'd burn his world down if he touched me. This isn't about you. It's a test. He's seeing how far I'll bend before I break. Adrian paused by the door. Stay inside. Marcus is posted. Do not leave. Adrian, wait. But the man she knew was gone, replaced by the one reflected in the closing elevator doors, all set jaw and ice. Emma remained in the dark, her thoughts a maelstrom. This was it then, the true nature of his world, colliding with hers like a runaway train. Men were dead, more were about to be. And it all hinged on a debt to a man who traded in violence as casually as others traded stocks. She paced the length of the apartment, watching the sky bleed from black to a bruised purple. Her phone remained dark. No calls, no texts. She had been excised from their lives. Good. So be it. Around 8 a.m., Marcus arrived with a breakfast she couldn't touch and information that twisted her gut into a knot. The boss is meeting the Vulovs in 2 hours to discuss terms. What sort of terms? Marcus's face was a mask of professional calm, the kind that end with someone in a body bag if things go sideways. I need to see him. His orders were for you to stay put. I don't care about his orders. Take me to him. Marcus regarded her for a long, quiet second. You certain? It might be easier if you don't see the man he becomes before a war. I'm certain. The warehouse felt different by day, colder, sharper, the violence more tangible. Marcus guided her past men scrubbing blood from concrete, their expressions like granite. They paid her no mind as she walked by. Adrian was in his office, speaking in clipped, harsh Russian. His eyes found her, and a series of emotions washed over his face. Shock, then worry, then a weary acceptance. He terminated the call. You should not be here. I know, and yet I am. Adrian waved Marcus away, waiting for the privacy of the closed door. Emma. She closed the distance between them, her hands finding his. Don't you dare tell me to wait at home. If I am a part of your life, I am part of all of it. This will not be clean. I never expected it to be. He pulled her into a fierce embrace. Dimitri will demand I approve the execution of 2 men loyal to me for years. And if I agree, I'm a coward who submits. If I refuse, it's all-out war. What will you do? I haven't decided. Adrian leaned back, his gaze intense. A part of me wants to set it all on fire, to tell Dimitri to go to hell, but that choice endangers you. It endangers everyone loyal to me. The strategic move is to find a compromise. And if you can't, then people die. His jaw hardened. Perhaps me among them. Emma's fingers clenched his shirt. Don't you say that. It's the reality of our world. Dimitri has wanted a reason to come for me for years. This could be it. Then don't go. Send Marcus. Send anyone else. My absence would be seen as weakness, and weakness is a death sentence in this life. Adrian touched his lips to her forehead. I am going. But first you will promise me something. Anything. If this turns bad, if I don't come back, you get into a car with Marcus and you vanish. Sophia has your destination. No heroics, no second thoughts. You run. Promise me, Emma. She wanted to scream, to vow she would fight beside him, but the raw fear in his eyes, not for himself but for her, silenced the protest on her tongue. I promise. The rendezvous was a hollowed-out restaurant, a skeletal space of empty tables and chairs. Emma watched from Marcus's SUV, parked a half-block down, binoculars glued to her face despite Adrian's direct order. "He's going to have my head for this," Marcus grumbled. "Then we'll be headless together." She could see them through the large front window. Adrian and 2 guards on one side, Dmitry Vulov and his entourage opposite them. From this distance, the meeting seemed almost cordial. Then one of Dmitry's men shot to his feet. Adrian didn't move, but his entire form radiated a newfound tension that she could feel even through the glass. "It's going south," Marcus said, his hand already moving for his phone. Before she could process his words, the restaurant's rear entrance flew open. 4 new figures stormed inside, weapons raised, and the fragile peace shattered into outright war. Adrian upended the heavy table for cover as his men answered the incoming fire. Windows exploded. Bodies fell. A scream lodged in Emma's throat as she saw Adrian move, a fluid, terrifyingly efficient predator. He dropped 1 man, then a second, each motion precise and lethal. But the numbers were against them. Even from here, she could see they were being overrun. "We have to do something," she pleaded. "Miss Carter, my orders." Marcus cut himself off, his face grim. He had made a new decision. He radioed for support, drawing his sidearm in the same fluid motion. "Stay in the vehicle. Secure the locks. If it is not me or the boss, you drive. Got it?" Emma gave a sharp nod, slipping behind the wheel while Marcus raced into the chaos. Through the glass, she witnessed the skirmish escalate as Adriana's crew arrived, the battle shifting amidst fallen figures and stained walls. A cinematic brutality was unfolding before her eyes. Then, emerging from a car, just 2 spots back, was Ryan Blake. Emma's pulse froze. Why was he here? How could he possibly know? She could only stare, paralyzed, as Ryan calmly made a call and strode into the fray, not away from it, but toward it, as if he were home. In that moment, the horrible truth crashed down on Emma. Ryan was no innocent bystander, no simple, well-bred fiancé to Victoria. He belonged to this darkness. He always had. The realization struck her with the force of a fist. 3 years. For 3 years, her heart had been his, while he was engaged in a shadow play she never knew was being staged. A new resolve hardened within her. The car door clicked open. She stepped onto the pavement. "Hey," she called out. Ryan spun around, his complexion turning to ash at the sight of her. "Emma, what in God's name are you doing?" "I could ask the same, but I believe I have my answer." She advanced, her hands trembling but her tone unwavering. "You are in business with the Vulovs. That is the reason you left me for Victoria, is it not?" "There is some deal between the Blakes and the Vulovs." Ryan's jaw went rigid. "You have no idea what you are saying." "Do I not? Your father develops commercial properties, correct? Major projects citywide. So let me piece this together. The Vulovs clean their funds using his buildings, and in return, your family gets security and a share. Emma, you have to go. Right now. Or you will what? Have me silenced like the men inside?" She motioned to the restaurant's brutal aftermath. "Was that the reason? I was not high society enough for your syndicate? Not a valuable asset?" Ryan seized her arm, his grip bruising. You foolish girl. Do you comprehend the danger you are in? Adrian Castellano is already a ghost. Dimitri is going to eliminate him, seize his entire operation, and everyone connected to him will fall with him. Emma wrenched her arm away. Then I suppose I am falling too. You do not have to. Just come with me. I can shield you. Tell Dimitri you were an unwitting pawn, completely in the dark. And then what? We just continue where we were? A bitter laugh escaped Emma's lips. I would sooner die. That can be arranged. The voice emerged from behind her. Emma pivoted to see one of Dimitri's thugs, a firearm leveled at her heart. Time warped and stretched. She watched the man's fingers squeeze the trigger, saw Ryan take a step back, already creating distance. Her life was about to extinguish in a parking lot, mere feet from where Adrian fought for his own. Then Marcus was there, a blur of motion crashing into the gunman, sending the bullet wide. As they grappled in the asphalt, Emma stumbled away. "Run!" Marcus yelled, but her gaze was locked on the restaurant where Adrian had just emerged in the doorway. Their eyes connected across the space, and she saw raw fury twist his features as he grasped her peril. He surged toward her, only for Dimitri himself to block his way. This is not over, Castellano. Adrian did not spare him a glance. He lifted his pistol and fired, not at Dimitri, but at the man locked in combat with Marcus. The shot was clean, final. The man collapsed. As Marcus scrambled up, Dimitri chuckled. So, there it is. That is your vulnerability, a woman. He drew his own piece, taking aim at Emma. Drop your weapon, or she is gone. Adriana's expression was a cold, unreadable mask, yet Emma could perceive the frantic calculus churning behind his stare, the terrible choice he was facing. "Let her go," Adrienne commanded. "This is between you and me." "No, this is precisely the point." "You believe you can operate in my territory, poach my business, and suffer no repercussions?" Dimitri's finger tightened on the trigger. "She dies first, then you." Emma's thoughts raced. She could flee, try to find cover. She could scream, create a diversion for Adrian's shot. Or she could remain still, praying Adrian was faster. But she did what none of them anticipated. She walked straight at Dimitri. "Emma, do not." Adriana's voice was sharp, laced with terror. "You want collateral?" Emma asked Dimitri, her steps unfaltering. "I am right here. Let Adrian leave, and I am yours. My life for his." "Emma, stop it!" Adrian lurched forward, but two of Dimitri's men intercepted him. She halted 3 feet from the barrel of the gun. "I am serious. Let him go. You get me, an assurance he will not seek revenge. Is that not more valuable than 2 corpses? Dimitri observed her, a flicker of genuine interest in his eyes. "You love him that much? You would perish for him, without a second thought." "Fascinating." Dimitri lowered his weapon just a fraction. Adrian Castellano, the unfeeling man, undone by a nurse's aid. "There is a certain poetry to that." "There is only foolishness in it," Ryan interjected, his voice finally returning. "She means nothing. Eliminate her and finish this." Emma's gaze shot to Ryan, still such a romantic. Dimitri smirked. "I like her. She has mettle." He turned to Adrian. "I will offer you a decision, Castellano. Your life or hers. You walk away from this city, from your entire enterprise, and she lives. Or you stand and fight, and she dies here and now." "Do not," Emma pleaded. "Do not you dare accept that." But Adrian was already lowering his sidearm. "You have my word. I will disappear. You do not touch her." "No." Emma cried, moving toward him, but Dmitri caught her arm. A prudent choice, Dmitri smiled. You have 24 hours to vanish. If I catch sight of you after that, the deal is void. Adrian's gaze found Emma's for one last, searing moment. In his eyes, she saw regret, devotion, and a despair that fractured her soul. Then Marcus was guiding Adrian away, the two men retreating to their car, abandoning Emma to Dmitri, Ryan, and the ruins of her life. Release me, Emma said, her voice a low whisper. Not quite yet. We must first confirm your lover's departure. Dmitri signaled to a subordinate. Take her to the safe house. Hold her there until we have verification Castellano has left the city. Emma was hauled into a vehicle, thrown into the back. As it sped off, she saw Adrian's SUV vanish around a distant corner. She had purchased his life, only to lose him in the same breath. The safe house was a bleak apartment in Queens, devoid of windows and furnished with Spartan brutality. Emma perched on the bed's edge, contemplating her next move. Adrian was gone, likely en route to an airfield, with Marcus compelling him aboard a jet while every fiber of his being screamed to return for her. Dmitri had triumphed, Ryan had witnessed her utter defeat, and Emma was, once again, completely alone. But this time was different. There were no tears, no collapse into sorrow. Instead, there was rage, a cold, burning fury. She had sacrificed her safety, her future, her very existence to save Adrian, and he had simply walked away. Struck a bargain with a man who would likely dispose of her once Adrian was no longer a threat. 2 hours crawled by, then 4. Emma committed every detail of the room to memory, searching for an escape, a flaw. The door was solid steel, the lone guard outside was armed and vigilant. They had taken her phone. She possessed nothing but the clothes she wore and her simmering rage. Near midnight, shouting erupted, then the crack of gunfire. The guard by her door shot back once, then fell silent. The door flew open. Emma steeled herself for the unknown. It was Sophia Marinette, flanked by 4 armed men, appearing impossibly calm amidst the violence. Hello, dear. Ready to leave? Emma's mouth fell open. How did you? Adrian contacted me before his flight. He asked me to guarantee your well-being. Sophia offered a hand. Come now, there is much to be done. Inside Sophia's sedan, Emma finally spoke. So he truly left. His plane departed 3 hours ago, bound for Prague, Sophia confirmed, glancing over. He saved your life. He deserted me. He did what was necessary to keep you alive. Sophia's tone was gentle. That is love, Emma, not grand displays. Sacrifice. Emma watched the city lights blur past the window. Where are we going? To end this. A sharp edge entered Sophia's smile. Dmitri Vulov made an error. He believed Adrian was the only power player in this game. He forgot about me, and he certainly underestimated you. What are you talking about? You saved Adrian's life today. You walked toward a loaded gun without a flicker of fear. That brand of courage gets noticed. Sophia pulled up before a familiar building. Adrian's headquarters. The real question is, what are you going to do with it? Inside, Sophia laid out a spread of files on the conference table. Financial statements, property deeds, shell corporations. For 3 years, the Vulovs have been washing their money through the Blake family's real estate projects, Sophia detailed. I have been tracking the flow, building a file. All I was missing was definitive proof of the connection. Ryan, Emma breathed. Precisely. Your former love is the linchpin. He has been overseeing the transfers, burying the evidence. Quite brilliant in its own way. Sophia met her gaze, but not brilliant enough. With these records, we can dismantle both the Vulovs and the Blakes. The Bureau has sought proof like this for years. Emma's mind was reeling. You are going to turn them over to the feds. I am going to give you the choice. You can deliver these to the FBI. Be the hero. Watch Ryan, his father, and Dimitri all go to prison. Or you can vanish, begin a new life, and leave this all behind you. And Adrian, the question hung in the air. He was in Prague, forging a new existence. She could run to him, or she could stay and bring this chapter to a close. Emma's gaze fell upon the documents, an arsenal to ruin those who'd wronged her. Ryan, who cast her aside. Her family, who traded her pain for Victoria's contentment. The Vulovs, who wanted her dead. She recalled the woman she'd been just 3 weeks ago. A phantom, depleted, barely clinging to life. That woman would have vanished. But Emma was no longer that woman. I'll see it through, she declared. All of it. A slow smile spread across Sophia's face. I was counting on that. The next 72 hours were a whirlwind. Emma conferred with federal agents, surrendering Sophia's proof and detailing all she had witnessed. They took Ryan from his office in cuffs as his peers looked on. His father was apprehended not long after. Dmitry Volkov was caught at the airport attempting to escape the country. The media storm was relentless. Emma tuned most of it out, but saw flashes of Ryan's face on screen, a stranger to the confident man who'd promised her the world. She saw Victoria's tearful denial of any knowledge of his dealings. Her mother tried to call once. Emma let it ring. A week past the arrest, Emma stood before the darkened venue where Victoria's wedding was to be. The ceremony was off. Word was Victoria had fled to California, shamed and broken. Emma waited for a feeling to surface. Triumph, justice, anything. But all she felt was a profound weariness. You did it. She turned. Marcus was there, a few feet away. I thought you were with Adrian in Prague. I was. He sent me to check on you. Marcus stepped closer. He wants to see you if you're ready. Emma's heart faltered. He's here. He came back 2 days ago, waiting for you to finish this. Where? The penthouse. Of course. The ascent in the elevator felt like an eternity. Emma's hands trembled, her breathing shallow. What could she possibly say? How do you speak to the man who gave up an empire for you, then let you do the same? The doors slid open into the living space. Adrian stood by the windows, a silhouette against the city's glow. When he turned to face her, the look in his eyes almost shattered her. Emma. She closed the distance between them and struck him squarely in the chest. You abandoned me. I had no choice. You cut a deal with Dimitri. You were going to let him find me after you were gone. Sophia was already taking action. I knew she would get you clear. Emma hit him once more. You knew nothing. You gambled with my life. Yes. Adrian caught her wrist, his touch surprisingly gentle. Because if I had stayed to fight, we both would have been killed. This way. One of us made it out. I don't want to just make it out without you. Emma's voice fractured. I want a life with you, the real kind, not just getting by, but living. Adrian drew her into his arms, holding her as if she might fade away. I love you. I should have said it with more conviction, more often. I should have made you certain. I am certain. Emma clutched his shirt. I know. Because you were ready to sacrifice it all. Your kingdom, this city, your entire world. For me, I would do it again. You won't have to. The Volkovs are finished. So are the Blakes. It's done. Adrian leaned back, his eyes searching hers. So what comes next? What is it you want, Emma? She considered it. Truly let the question sink in. Her former life was gone, turned to dust by her own actions. Her family had cast her out. Her old job was a distant echo. The identity she'd carried for 32 years was nothing but ash. Yet in Adrian's embrace, she didn't feel lost. She felt grounded, present. I want this, she answered. This thing between us, and whatever we decide to make of it. It won't be simple. I'm not looking for simple. It could be dangerous. I am expecting it to be. Adrian smiled, the first truly unguarded expression she'd ever witnessed on his face. In that case, I have something for you. He reached into his pocket and produced a small box. Not for a ring, but something different. He flipped it open, revealing a single key. This is for the apartment, he said. Officially, not as a safe house from danger, but as a home, because you belong here. He waited a beat. If that's what you want. Emma accepted the key, its cold weight a promise of permanence, of having a say. Ask me the other question, she urged. What other question? You know the one. I can see the box in your pocket. A short, surprised laugh escaped him. How did you? Just ask. He retrieved the second box and opened it. Inside sat a simple platinum band holding one diamond. It wasn't flashy or a display of fortune. It was just beautiful. Emma Carter, will you marry me? Will you create this chaotic, perilous, likely ill-fated life with me? Will you allow me to prove to you every single day that you are seen? Yes. There was no pause, no flicker of uncertainty. Yes, to every part of it. As he slid the ring onto her finger, Emma felt a final piece of herself click into place. This was right. This was true. They were wed 3 months later at the club where they first danced, the ceremony quiet and private. Sophia was in attendance, Marcus was there, along with a few of Adrian's trusted circle. Emma's family received no invitation. She was at peace with the decision. While they danced to the music of that first night, Emma thought of the person she had been, the woman shattered by a wedding invitation, feeling her world collapse, the woman who was unseen, a ghost. That person was gone, replaced by someone who had survived the inferno and emerged as tempered steel. What are you thinking about? Adrian murmured into her hair. That I am happy. Genuinely happy. Good. That's all I've ever wanted. Are you happy? With me? Emma drew back to meet his gaze. And your empire? Are you planning to rebuild? It's already begun, but on new terms this time. Legitimate ventures for the most part. I'm growing too weary for these endless conflicts. You're 43. I'm exhausted. He grinned. And I have someone to live for now. It changes the entire equation. So what then? We attempt a normal life. Define normal. Adrian twirled her, the room dissolving into a blur of light. We manage honest companies, offer aid to people with certain problems, reside in an apartment that's too large, and bicker over who forgot to turn off the coffee maker, perhaps get a dog. Is that your idea of normal? It's perfect. This wasn't the future Emma had envisioned when that invitation arrived 4 months ago. Not the secure, predictable life she thought she craved, but it was a life she had chosen, claimed, and constructed from the ruins of her past. 6 months after they married, Emma stood on the penthouse terrace, her home now in every sense, and gazed out over the city. Somewhere down there, Ryan Blake was serving a 15-year term for fraud and racketeering. His father had received 20. Dmitry Volkov was facing a life sentence. Victoria had relocated to Los Angeles, taken a new name, and was reportedly engaged. Her mother still called, but Emma seldom picked up. She had returned to work, but not in her old role. Sophia had gotten her into nursing school, a proper program this time. Emma was learning she had a talent for it when not drained from juggling 3 jobs. Adrian had established a foundation in Sophia's honor, supporting troubled youth in Queens. Emma co-managed it, finding meaning in the work. Their life wasn't a fairy tale. They argued, often over Adrian's lingering taste for risk or Emma's relentless drive at school. They both carried scars that love alone could not erase. But their connection was real. They truly saw one another. And each morning, Emma awoke beside the man who had saved her by noticing her when she was invisible to the world. There you are. Adrian came out onto the terrace holding 2 glasses of wine. What are you doing out in the cold? Just thinking. About that bus, about what might have been if you just kept driving that night. Adrian passed her a glass, pulling her close to his side. I never could have driven past. You were someone who needed to be seen, and I was someone who needed to save. We rescued each other. Yeah, she agreed. We did. They stood there in a comfortable quiet, watching the city breathe with light and life. Emma considered the invitation that had torn her world apart, the sister who had betrayed her, and the night that changed it all. She wouldn't take back a single moment, because the woman she had been, small, unseen, fading away, that woman could never have stood here now. She would never have fought for her own existence, never have been counted. Emma Carter had set her old life ablaze, and from those ashes, she had built something far greater, something perilous and intricate and uniquely, flawlessly her own. She had embraced the storm over the calm, love over comfort, and strength over obscurity. And for the very first time in her life, she was no longer just surviving. Model.
Emma Carter thought her life was already at rock bottom. Her ex vanished. Her sister stole the man. Her own family expected her to smile through the humiliation and show up at the wedding like a decorative lamp, but the universe looked at that mess and said, nah, not enough chaos yet. Because one rainy night, while Emma was dragging her exhausted soul back from another underpaid shift, she stepped onto a bus and accidentally wandered into a mafia extraction. No buildup, no warning, just 2 armed men hopping on, scanning faces, dragging a suited guy off the back row like a human package. In 1 second, Emma stopped being the forgotten sister and became something way more dangerous, a witness. And this is where the story goes insane. She gets home shaking, soaked, and spiritually bankrupt. Then boom, a mysterious man in an expensive car appears. Adrian Castellano. Calm voice, sharp suit, predator eyes. The type of man who looks like he could buy your building, your neighborhood, and your fate before breakfast. He tells her the truth. The men on that bus belong to a brutal criminal network, and people like them do not leave witnesses lying around. Now, a normal story would turn Emma into a screaming victim. Not this one. At first, yes, she is terrified, but fear starts mixing with something else, rage. Because Emma realizes her whole life has been one long lesson in disappearing. She made herself smaller for her family, smaller for Ryan, smaller for peace, smaller for approval. And what did that get her? Betrayal, erasure, a front row seat to her own disrespect. That is the real twist here. The Mafia did not create Emma's breaking point. They only lit the match. The fire had already been building for years. Adrian takes her in, not because he is a saint, but because he sees something in her that nobody else cared enough to notice. He sees a woman who's been emotionally starved for so long that being truly seen feels more dangerous than the guns. And from there, the drama only levels up. Emma starts seeing Adrian's world. Weapons, deals, coded meetings, enemies, blood in the corners of power. But instead of running, she starts waking up. That is the craziest part. The more she sees, the more she understands that safety was never the same thing as living. Her old life was technically clean, technically normal, technically acceptable. It was also killing her slowly. Then the mega plot twist drops. Ryan, the ex who ghosted her and got engaged to Victoria, is not just some rich coward. No, sir. That man is tangled up in the same criminal web. He did not simply choose the better sister. He chose power, status, access, and survival inside a dirty machine. Emma was never dumped because she lacked worth. She was discarded because she did not fit the transaction. That realization changes everything. And when war breaks out, Emma finally does the one thing the old version of her never would have done. She steps forward, not back. Forward. She becomes the leverage, the risk, the decision maker. She stops being the girl life happens to and becomes the woman who changes the board. Here is why that hits so hard. Revenge in this story is not just about taking down the people who lied, it is about reclaiming identity. Emma's biggest comeback is not getting the man. It is not surviving the mafia. It is not even watching Ryan fall. Her real revenge is this: she stops apologizing for existing. That is why the ending works. Yes, the villains fall. Yes, the corrupt network gets exposed. Yes, the fake fairy tale wedding gets blown to dust. But the real win is internal. Emma finally chooses a life on her own terms. A dangerous one, a messy one, a morally gray one maybe, but hers, fully hers. And that is the life lesson hiding under all this chaos. People think betrayal breaks a person in one moment. It usually doesn't. It reveals all the places they were already bending just to be loved. Emma's story proves that the most dangerous thing in the world is not a gunman on a midnight bus. It is a person who finally realizes they have nothing left to lose by becoming themselves. Because once someone stops begging to be chosen, they become unstoppable. Life lesson: the moment a person stops shrinking for love, family, or acceptance, they become more powerful than anyone who ever tried to control them. 2. The video essayist.